So welcome back to the third and last day of TripleA. So our first speaker today is Xuping Li from Zhejiang University with the talk Semantics for Numerals in Lalo E. Yeah, take it away.
Okay, thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Xuping Li from Zhejiang University, mainland China. I'm a Chinese linguist working on Chinese dialects and also minority languages spoken in China. Today, I'm going to talk about the semantics for numerals in Lalo E. So we can start with numerals in English. We all know that numerals in English, they have many different uses, right? They can be used as either a determiner or as a predicate or even as a modifier, right? And they can be shifted from each other. In addition to those uses, and also Frege also pointed out numerals in English can also have the corresponding nominalized use, that is being a singular term. And the singular term can also be derived from the its predictive use, as we can see in 2. However, I think it's not very straightforward to us to what extent the type shifting principles for English numerals proposed in Part E and also in Roster in 2013 are applicable to languages beyond Europe. And as far as I can see, their analysis for English numerals cannot be directly applied to numerals in classified languages. And in numerals, they do not have a unified semantics. Now in this talk, we're gonna look at the numerals in Lalo Yi, which is a Tibeto-Burma language spoken in Southwest China. As you can see on the map, the language I investigate is actually is where the index finger pointed. It's spoken in Yunnan province. Okay. All right. Now let's get into the details. So what's so special? What's special about the numerals in Lalo Yi is that it actually has 2 different sets of numerals. There are numerals native to the Yi language, and also there are borrowed numerals from Mandarin Chinese. And actually, these 2 sets of numerals, they are licensed in very different syntactic contexts. Now, for example, actually only borrowed Chinese numerals, they can be used in argument positions in their bare forms, and native numerals to Lalo Yi, they cannot be used as argument by themselves unless they are accompanied by a classify. So you can either say, if you want to say I can count from 1 to 10, you can either use the Mandarin, the Chinese numerals 1 to 10, or use the native numerals like 1 classify and 10 classify. Okay. And the second context which we can use to distinguish them is the second context is for them is actually Lalo Yi is a classified language. Why is it a classified language? Because its numerals cannot be used by itself as a predicate. Okay, if it want to occur in the predicate position, we can only use the numeral plus classify for, but not by bare numerals. And in the photo, girls are 4, boys are 6. You must no matter which set of numerals is chosen, you must always use numcla, but not bare nouns, which means neither the Mandarin class, neither the Chinese numerals nor the native numerals to Yi can be used as a predicate in its bare form. And the third interesting fact is concerned with the number phrase and the DP. In Lalo Yi, if we want to derive an indefinite phrase like a number phrase, we can the constituent, the number actually they cannot form a constituent with the noun, with the NP. I will show you more details later on. But for the definitive phrase, for example, we can derive a DEMP, that demonstrative phrase, as in the order of non-dem number cl. Okay, and for these 2 cows, we can say cow that 2 cl. It is a constituent, but not for 2 cows. I have some more. I have some syntactic evidence to show which one is a constituent, which one is not a constituent. And here are the questions I want to address. The first one is how are these two sets of numerals can be semantically distinguished? What's the label of division is it? And the second one is how would the presence of classify affect numerals? Which means how would the presence of classifiers constrain the semantic of numerals in classified languages in Lalo? Actually, it's a more general question for classified. Actually, it's a question for classified languages in general, not just for Lalo. The last question is why would num behave differently in indefinite and definite phrases? Before we get into the data of Lalo, we will start with some introduction to the theoretical background, and we will start with the Frege semantics for numerals in English. We have to admit the current wisdom on the semantics for numerals has been largely built on the data of Indo-European languages. And there are two controversies about those analyses. The first one is among the various readings of English numerals, which reading should be taken as the default reading, and from which we can derive the other readings. English numerals can either be used as a generalized quantifier like 8 planets, or they can be used as predicates. The planets are 8. They can also be used as modifiers. And there are, as for the first controversy, there are 3 different analyses proposed in the market, including the GQ view, the adjective view, and also the modifier view. I have to say there isn't much morphosynthetic evidence available in English to favor one analysis over the others. And it's theoretically possible to shifting among those 3 readings via the party triangle. But actually among those readings, the analysis of numerals as GQ has been refuted by some linguists. For example, Krivka 1999, and he argued at least some modifiers are not, some determiners are not determiners. Because for example, like 3 boys, 87 apples, the most prominent reading we can get from this example is actually a cumulative reading. This sentence actually means boys ate apples, and the boys are 3, and the apples that were eaten were 7, and we don't know how the apples were actually distributed. That this kind of cumulative reading is not predicted by the GQ analysis in any case. And it also carries over to the problem is also shared by the complex expression at least 3. And also Landman in 2004, he presented 2 arguments to go against the GQ analysis. The first one is number phrases, they actually can be taken as complemented by determiners. We can see every 3 students, the 3 students. So if 3 students, they were determinants, then how would every and the make their semantic contribution? And the second one is the complex expression, like the more than 3 students, they would have the structure like more than 3 to be a modifier, which then compose with students. This is different from the previous analysis where more than 3 actually goes with the, not with 3 students, okay? That's the first controversy. The second controversy is how can the first order properties denoted by numerals be related to their nominalized counterparts, that is being a singular term? So in the example of the number of planets is 8, and Frege uses this example to support the singular term status of numbers. However, Moltmann, she argues number words in argument position actually may retain their adjectival meaning. So every day John has to count the visitors, and today he counted 10, yesterday he counted 2, today before yesterday he counted 0. Here 10, 2, and 0, they serve as the object of the intentional count, okay? And she believes those numerals should be taken as adjectives. Roston offers a different view, and she thinks cardinal numerals actually, they start with the standard modifier interpretation at type ET, and they can be nominalized to be a singular term. That's the semantics is offered in 13A and 13B. So we got two generalizations. Numerals are interpreted as, it is more reasonable to say numerals in English are interpreted as cardinal predicates, and they can be shifted from its predicate use into the corresponding arguments. All right, now let's move on to section 3, numerals in Lalo and overview. As I was mentioning, there are two sets of numerals in this language, including the native ones and also the borrowed ones. So the first line is the native numerals, and the second line, those numerals are borrowed from Chinese. And now we will show how these two sets of numerals can be syntactically distinguished or semantically distinguished. Now that's the first context. Only bare numerals borrowed from Chinese can be used as numerical objects, and the native ones, they cannot. So if you want to say 1 is a singular number and 2 is a dual number, you can only use the borrowed Chinese numerals, but not the native ones, as in 14. And also in arithmetic contexts, if you want to say 1 plus 1 equals makes 2, here you can only use the borrowed numerals, okay? And the native numerals, they can be used in arithmetic contexts only if they are followed by a classify. So you can say, actually the native numerals, numcla, they can be used in addition or subtraction, but not for multiplication or division. So they can say, if they want to express 1 plus 1 equals 2, they would say 2 put 1 classify with another 1 classify, then it's how many? And for the subtraction, they would say, okay, to take 1 classify from 2 classify, then it's how many? Okay, in a very analytical way, actually. Now the second context is both sets of numerals, they can be used in the context of enumeration, but actually I would argue there are two modes of counting involved here. Rostin argues the predicate counting up to applies to argument expressions, and which is taken evidence in support of the status of numerals as singular terms. So you can only say he can count up to 13, but you cannot say he can count up to 13 students, right? However, in Lalo, you can either say, I can count from 1 to 10 by using the Mandarin classifiers in spare form, or use the native Yi numerals if they are used in the form of 1 cla or 10 cla. I can count from 1 classifier to 10 classifier. Okay, so both numerals can be used in this counting context. And we suggest actually there are two different, this kind of enumeration, they are carried out with respect to two distinct domains. And the first one, if I use the natural number, bare natural number, they are actually counted with respect to the domain of natural numbers. Okay, so it's a purely mathematical counting with respect to the ordering of natural numbers. And if I say I can count from 1 classify to 10 classify, this kind of counting, there's kind of mapping from natural numbers to a set of discrete entities. You're actually counting individuals. Okay, 1 individual, 2 individual, right? So they are actually different. And the third context is in the predictive position, neither the Mandarin numerals nor the Yi numerals can be used in their bare forms. If they want to be a predicate, they must rely on a classifier. So you can either use Sama or Sanga. The students who asked for leave today is 3 classified. This kind of expression applies to both Mandarin and Chinese numerals and other native ones. And the classifier cannot be omitted. All right, so here is a brief summary of the usages of numerals in Lalo Yi and with a comparison with English numerals. So so only English and Chinese numerals can be used as mathematical objects or as a singular term, as we can see from the first three contexts, right? And actually, neither Mandarin, neither Chinese numerals nor E numerals can be used as a predicate, as we can see from the last two columns. The reasons are three, and it's three students. Here, only English numerals can be used in this context. And for Mandarin, for Chinese ones and U ones, they are not allowed. We can only use numcla. So I would argue English numerals can be seen as numerical adjectives, while Chinese numerals, they are actually mapped onto singular terms at the type n. Then what about the E numerals? So here's my analysis. So actually we are more familiar with like Mandarin and Japanese, which are often called classified languages, because it's often assumed you cannot say three students for those languages. You must say three classified students, or students three classified, depending on whether its nominal phrase is head initial or head final. And also it's still under debate for the sequences like numeral classify noun. It's always under debate whether the classify is actually needed by the non-semantics or by the numeral semantics, okay? And as far as Lalo E is concerned, we would argue classifiers are actually needed by numerals, because first, its native numerals can never be used in its bare form. There's no bare numerals in Lalo E. And numcla cannot merge with an NP in this language. That's why. And there is a very important observation made by Bu and Liu in 2020. The constituent of numcla, the phrase of numcla in Lalo, it doesn't form a constituent with this NP, no matter whether the noun is interpreted as a subject or object. Actually, this language is an SOV language. So 4 kids are crying sadly here, children and hard and full classify cry, okay? But here the NP and the numcla is separated by an adverbial. And for example, 21b, 2 cows are eating the crops in the field. Here, 2 classify only goes with cow. But here, the classify and the cow and the NP, they are actually separated by the object crops, right? So they really behave more like floating quantifiers, floating numcla in Japanese, but not exactly. That's why Bu and Liu, they argue numcla, they cannot merge with NP as an indefinite phrase. And there is some more evidence. Actually, there's no conjunction phrases. You cannot conjoin non-numcla. So Amu bought 2 pens and 3 books. You can only say Amu bought 2 pens and bought 3 books. Okay. The 2 NPs, the 2 number P's cannot be conjoined. That's why. All right, unfortunately, this puzzle was not solved. Why the phrase numcla cannot merge with NP? Okay, so here we propose actually native numerals in Lalo are neither predicates nor singular terms. Okay, they are GQs. It's actually the classify. It's the classify that serves as it's restricted to the numbers, to numerals. Okay, so once the first argument is saturated, then you got ETT. So here's the semantics for 4 and 4 classify. Okay, and we got some evidence. The first evidence is actually numcla, number P's in Lalo, they have the anti-cumulativity effect. It's never possible to say 4 leopards killed 3 tigers. In a single sentence, you cannot accommodate 2 number P's. Okay. Instead of if you want to express the same meaning, you must say the leopards that killed 3 tigers are 4. You must use the relativization strategy, and also numcla, they must always be scope taking. People, tiger, 5 classifies 1 to 6, which means you got 2 interpretations. the people want to seek, not feed, want to seek 5 tigers. So here, since it's not a constitution, you would say as for tigers, the people are going to feed 5, to seek 5. Okay, so here 5 tigers. So here 5 refers back to tigers. So you got 5 tigers. Here 5 tigers can either be scoped below by seek or above seek. Okay, it's either wide scope or narrow scope with respect to the intentional seek. And for the second interpretation, as for people, 5 people are seeking tigers. Okay, so 5 people are seeking tigers. Here, the bare noun tigers can only have the narrow scope rating. Okay, all right. And also the second evidence to support of the GQ status comes from the fact that there's no conjunction. You cannot conjoin two numerals. Okay, so the students who attended the meeting were 4 or 5. You can say something like that in English. But here 4 or 5 can only be expressed as 4 classify and 5 classify. You cannot say 4, 5 classify. But that's completely possible in Mandarin. There are 4 or 5 students appeared today. Okay, and also the GQ status of number P is also corroborated by the following facts independently. In this language, there's no lexicalized quantifiers like every, all, or the. So you wouldn't find sequences like num, color, every, or num, color, the, which means num, color, they can never be taken as a complement by quantifiers, by other quantifiers, the determinants, and there are no such determinants. Well, some may want, well, how would you express the distributive reading or the definite reading? They use num, color. So if they want to say every 3 kids eat 1 apple, they can say kids 3 classify, apple 1 eat. Okay, so that's the distributive meaning. And there is no degree modifiers like more than, less than, exactly. Instead of using those degree modifiers, they use the verb exceed or fall behind to express the excessive reading or to express more than or less than. I'll skip the third fact, which is the third fact is tells us actually the special num color, 1 color. If one undergoes tone sandy, it can have the definite reading. Okay, so that item of clothes is thick. Here actually is expressed by a special tone sanded 1. Here's the semantics. But in addition to its GQ use, we also find a num color can appear in predicative positions, right? The leopards that killed 3 tigers are 4 here. 4 classify. The GQ actually tends to be a predicate. So here I would assume the predicate reading can be coerced by parties B. Okay, and this kind of sorry, where I am. There's another puzzle. We were saying you cannot have num color in indefinite phrases. They cannot be treated as a phrase, right? But for DMP, it is a phrase. For example, I sold out those 3 dogs. Those 3 dogs can be topicalized as in 31B, right? So it is a constituent. Why is it so? Here I also assume once there is a demonstrative, then demonstrative need a complement, right? Need a restrictor. So it needs an ET type of complement. So it would coerce its complement num color to be shifted from GQ to ET, and hence the num color can intersect with the NP. That's what I can have for the moment. Okay, if it's not correct, you can tell me later on. And also here the semantics for borrowed Chinese numerals. Actually, I'm proposing a non-unified semantics for numerals and for classifiers in classified languages. So this kind of type shifting from the cardinality function to a singular term is possible in English, but we think this kind of type shifting operation is not possible for Chinese numerals. The first fact I want to emphasize is since not the native numerals in Lalo E, they don't really have the corresponding nominalized counterparts, right? They actually resulted to the Chinese numerals as a compensating device. Okay, so it's lexically blocked. They cannot be nominalized to be singular terms for its native numerals. And actually for Chinese numerals, they are born as singular terms. Then how can they compose with classifiers? So if Chinese numerals are treated as singular terms, then they are somehow analogous to the kind of denotation of bare nouns in Chinese, right? As proposed in Kekia. And these Chinese singular terms, Chinese numerals, they can be coerced with a predictive reading by lexical device, for example, by using the classifiers. The leopards that killed 3 tigers are 4个. That's the Chinese numeral Chinese classifier, for classifier, right? Here, since 4, the bare numeral 4 cannot be used as a predicate unless it occurs with the classified 个. Okay, so I would treat 个 to be a type shifter to turn the Chinese numerals from N to ET. That's the semantics for classify in Mandarin, so in Chinese. Okay, so I want to propose that both cross-linguistically and intralinguistically, numerals are not endowed with a unified semantics. Okay, at least in Lalo E, the 2 sets of numerals. What it is? Okay, so I want to skip this part. And also I have some more puzzles which I haven't got a solution yet. Okay, the first puzzle is actually nomenclature cannot compose with adjective predicates as its argument. We can say the students asked for leave. We can say 3 students asked for leave, right? Students 3 classify asked for leave. That's 3 students asked for leave. But if I change the predicate ask for leave with the adjective be clever, you cannot say in the same order. Students 3 classify very clever. No, that's not grammatical. You can only say students very clever nominalized. Students who are intelligent are 3. Okay, so why is it so? If it is a GQ, why it cannot compose an ET type of adjective? That's really something puzzling. Okay, so I think it seems to be a stipulation that the phrase nomenclature is associated with an event interpretation. And I think at the moment, the most I can think of is if we follow in Chen and Lalo, the presence of nomenclature, they compose with the VP via restriction. And then there is also an event variable, which must be existentially closed before the closure of the restricted argument is forced at the end. But then I have the worry, would this kind of move make us give up the GQ analysis for nomenclature? That's my first puzzle. And the second puzzle is actually different aspect markings may actually affect the interpretation of nomenclature. Since we were assuming that nomenclature, they do not form a constituent with the preceding NP, but actually they can be semantically co-referential with each other. However, now let's look at the following table. If the aspect is, if it is a progressive aspect or immediate future aspect, the nomenclature can either be co-referential with the subject MP or the object MP. Okay, but for durative, experiential, or perfective, once the verb is aspectual marked by such markers, the nomenclature can only have the object MP as its antecedent. Okay. I don't know why it is so complicated for this kind of correlation. But actually, we speculate actually. I was wondering whether those aspectual markers are intentional or not might play a role here. Since for the immediate future, it is expressed by want and progressive is expressed by hide. So I would reinterpret hide as to put something somewhere intentionally, okay? So maybe this will play a role here, okay? So if we follow Hannah Phillip, though we may assume those aspectual markers are actually lexical V operators that quantifies over the episodic predicates of their and also their argument, then they may bind the incremental sim. This makes numCl sort of like a part of the VP, and which might lead to a narrow scope rating. All right, I think that's all what I want to present. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we do have about 10 minutes for questions. So if you want to raise your hand or put a question in the chat. Malte, do you have a question?
Yeah, thanks for unmuting. I couldn't unmute myself here for a second. So yeah, thank you very much for this really interesting talk. And I must say, I don't think I've seen like a pattern like this before. So certainly educational for like the theory of numerals. This being said, I was a bit puzzled by this restriction of one generalized quantifier per clause, right? So and so the last 10 minutes of your talk, I tried to figure out work compositionality and I couldn't make it work. And the reason is, so I don't think this distributional pattern follows from the semantic analysis. So to just give you a hint, we know from like the discussion of English and stuff that it's relatively easy to compose sentences where you have like a VP and then you have quantifier stacked on top, right? So and when this happens, you have this interplay of like lambda abstraction and then predicate like argument saturation. So you always go from type T to ET to T to ET. So in that sense, I think you could make it work to have two quantifiers on top, right? Because so that's the one comment. And then the question I have is about the status of classifiers in the language. They need to be somehow anaphoric, right? Or you would need to build in a variable or something to aim them to the topic antecedent anyway, right? And perhaps you could make this distributional constraint to one numeral per clause. Perhaps you could make it work from there, right? I don't know, no crossing dependencies or whatever. But I honestly don't think that this constraint to one classifier, to one numeral follows from the generalized quantifier. But otherwise, great talk, right? Really fascinating data. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Marta. Yes, actually, I want to just reply to your question. Since, like, for example, like 28 is this, its word order is like NP, and then you got a numCl, then you got the VP, right? So if we treat a numCl to be a like an argument, then what does the NP do here, right? Student 3 classify. So I would assume like this. I would treat those sentence initial or VP before VP before numeral classify NPs to be topic somehow, right? Then they can serve as antecedent for those numCl, right?
Yeah, I would agree on that. Like anything left is like topic like or something, but still you need to get your anaphoric relations right somewhere to make sure that you're counting the right things.
Right. Actually, there's another interesting fact I didn't mention in the presentation. This language actually has like case markers. If two MPs, they have the same animacy hierarchy. But for numCl, for NP that then numCl, only the numCl they can bear the case marker, not the NP, not the sentence initial NP. That actually may be in support of the topic status of the initial NP. I was thinking, yeah.
Yeah, also it would show that they are proper nominal arguments. Yeah, that's interesting.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Louisa, do you want to take the next question?
Thank you. Just to follow up on Malte's questions. So what do you think the semantics of classifiers is in Lalo Yi? I think, are they predicates of atoms? Is that what you said they were? And do you think that semantics would be available in other classifier languages, perhaps, where we have evidence that some other languages, the classifier and the numeral also form a constituent? I can't remember examples right now, but I think that's been discussed before. So do you think that in other languages where that's the case, we will have also classifiers like Lalo Yi?
Actually, my answer would be no. I think like classified languages, they do not have a unified semantics either. Because if we were correct that singular Chinese numerals to be singulars, right? And sorry, let me start again. Actually, classified languages can be classified into two types. Those obligatory classified languages like Japanese and Chinese, and there are also optional classified languages like Korean, Turkish, also Hungarian, right? So in those optional classified languages, which means you can either say 3 students or 3 classified students, right? Which means we wouldn't assume, okay, the numeral here doesn't have the same semantics for for 3 students or 3 classified students, right? So for those optional classified languages, I would assume the presence of classified, they wouldn't affect the semantics of numerals. So I can only treat those classifiers to be predicates. So that's the first type, optional classified languages. Then for those obligatory classified languages like Chinese, okay? And if we were right, then Chinese numerals to be singular terms of type N, then it's sort of, I think it's very reasonable to assume classifiers in Chinese, they are of type NET. And here the classifier, this serves as the function which applies to numerals. But there's also another possibility for nomenclature. In Mandarin, it's the classifier serves as a function, but for Lalo, it's the opposite. The numeral can serve as the function. Then the classifier serves as its predicate, its argument. So there are really different ways of deriving the counting predicate nomenclature. I was thinking the real difference, the signature property of being a classifier is to have numeral classifier as its predicate, which means in non-classified languages, their numerals can be used in predicate positions independently by themselves. But for those classified languages, no, they can never do so. They must always use nomenclature as the minimal constituent to define what is a classified language. Sorry, that's my understanding, my own understanding of what is a classified language.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
Sorry, I think it's sort of, I didn't hear what you said just now. I think sort of the connection is not very good, I think. Yeah, I just missed what you said.
No, my connection is awful, but I was thanking you for a very nice talk. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you.